The 8th generation AMC Ambassador was only around for a single model year. While this happens from time to time, it's not very common as you would imagine. A more recent example is the first generation Cadillac Escalade, but even those were around for at least 2 model years. The Ambassador was AMC's flagship model, and to be redesigned for a brand new generation just to be dropped a year later is why I created this video. I went ahead and bought the standard catalog of American Motors because I wanted to know everything there is about the final generation AMC Ambassador. There are chapters in the description to help navigate the video, and with that said, let's find out what happened to AMC's last full-size sedan. I'm not going to go as far back as the first generation, rather 1965, as it marks an important update for the Ambassador. They were now vaguely referred to as a luxury car, then in 1967 they were marketed as a full-size car. 67s were the roomiest of any mid-size car, but it didn't match the big cars. They were roughly a foot shorter and 3 inches narrower than the big 3 competitors. As we will see later on in the video, this was one of the problems with the Ambassador. The 7th gen was introduced in 1969, and based on this chart, at least compared to mid-size sedan sales, they did fairly well. The 8th generation was introduced in 1974, and we can see this drastic difference in sales. Before we get into why this was, I think it's important to take a deep dive into what this car was. These were restyled and stretched 7 inches to accommodate those infamous energy-absorbing bumpers. AMC was at a disadvantage due to several reasons, but specifically in this case, they had to integrate those beefy bumpers with old sheet metal. These were based on the same platform that was introduced back in '63, but then again, AMC had to be cost effective. The 8th generation Ambassador was the longest car AMC built with a total length of 219.3 inches or around 18.3 feet. For a comparison, the shortest car from my top 10 longest cars from the 70s video was the Mercury Marquis, coming in at 229 inches. However, a more fair comparison would be the Impala, and those were 229.9 inches, a little over 3 inches longer than the Ambassador. Let's talk styling changes because there were quite a few, with the front end being the most polarizing. They received revised front fender caps, new hood, grille, bumpers, rear fascia, instrument panel, interior trim, hood ornament, and a font change for the Ambassador nameplate. If you look closely at the crosshatch grille, you'll see the contained parking lights between them. That was new for '74 as well. The rear received new rectangular taillight housing, which featured taller white backup lights, and the license plate moved from the rear bumpers to the area between the taillight assemblies. As for the exterior, I believe those were all the changes that were done to the '74 Ambassadors. Also, with the final generation, the 2-door hardtop was dropped in favor of the all-new Matador Coupe. I want to now direct our attention to the front of these again because this is where we'll come across a key problem. Compared to the Impala and Fury, other full-size affordable cars at the time, it's a little awkward looking, the weirdly disproportionate lines and headlights bulging out, giving it a slight coffin nose look. The Matador saw similar treatment in 1974 on the 4-door sedan and station wagon. That front end was much more pronounced. Speaking of the Matador, these cars resembled one another visually. The Matador had a different grille, headlamp clusters, and whatnot, but the issue was when you stepped inside. Because these were built on the same 122-inch wheelbase, the interior space was practically identical, the legroom, headroom, cargo space, despite these being marketed as a full-size sedan. The additional length was entirely ahead the firewall, and that's the second problem. They had the room of a mid-size sedan. It's also inside where the Ambassador excelled over the competition. They came standard with a lot of equipment that usually didn't come standard on the rival's full-size entry-level sedans. As a matter of fact, the 1968 Ambassador was the first American car to come with AC standard before even Cadillac. So these came standard with AC, a V8 engine, automatic transmission, power steering, power front disc brakes, AM radio, white wall tires, tinted glass, vanity mirror, and extra quiet. Extra quiet was an insulation upgrade that included full undercoating, hood insulation, cowl side panel, roof insulation pad, and cargo floor deadener. As mentioned, these did come with a V8. Standard was a 304, good for 150 horsepower. There was a 360 and a 401, good for 235 horsepower. All engines were mated into a TorqueFlite automatic transmission, and these were, of course, rear-wheel drive. All this equipment came standard on the Brougham trim, which was the only trim available for both station wagon and sedan body styles. While that's all good news, trying to compete in the full-size market field with a stretch mid-size body was a hard ask. By doing so, they also wasted scarce resources on it when they didn't have the money needed to create a competitive full-size car. Management thought it would work out being priced higher and therefore generate more profits, but instead it cannibalized sales of the Matador. These scarce resources could have been used to keep the mid-size Matador more competitive. They bit off more than they could chew. AMC was doing good in the 60s and they were ambitious. The Ambassador had all new sheet metal, they invested money into it, they wanted to be a full line manufacturer. What didn't help at all was the gas crisis during the 70s. Everyone had to downsize, and what's ironic is the downsized Impala had a similar space efficiency as the Ambassador. That brings me to another point. AMC didn't market this car as being smaller in dimension compared to the other full-size sedans. Especially in 1974, that would have been a great route to take, but instead they did the opposite. And speaking of marketing, there were hardly any advertisements for this car. It seemed as if they'd given up on it. Ambassador sales fell 49%, which was 13% more than the other full-size low-price sedans at the time. 17,901 sedans and 7,070 station wagons with a total production of just under 25,000 units. These were very profitable for AMC for many years, but too many factors were at stake. The last AMC Ambassador rolled off the Kenosha assembly line June 1974, ending a nameplate that had been in continuous production for nearly 50 years. The Matador, sedans, and wagons were then given the new top-end Brougham model to fill in the gap. Styling is objective, and even if we take that out of the equation, there were just too many factors that led to the Ambassador being killed off. AMC never focused on luxury cars. That was never their thing. You wanted luxury, you got a Cadillac or Chrysler. AMC was never in the running. Nowadays, these are some very unique cars that hardly ever pop up at a car show, and I'm sure they get lots of attention when they do. And there you have it, a video dedicated to the final generation AMC Ambassador, AMC's longest flagship car ever built. It's been a while since I've done a video on AMC, and so it's always a pleasure when I find something to cover. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like. It helps me understand what type of content you all want to see in the future. With that said, enjoy the rest of your week, and I will try and see you all next week.